Hello everyone, FunshineX here, and this is another ComputerCraft tutorial, and I am going to listen to my viewers and give you guys what you want. And one of the things you guys wanted is for me to edit programs on the computer inside Minecraft. So we're going to be doing that. And the other thing that you guys wanted is one of the most requested tutorials, how to make menus that you can scroll using the keyboard or use Enter key to execute functions. So that is what today's tutorial is about, all about how to create menus for your programs. First, I want to point you to the ComputerCraft tutorials. If you type in, menu tutorial or anything, you're going to get a lot of great stuff there and a lot of good code that you can copy and use. So head there first if you need to actually copy code. Otherwise, you can watch my video and I'll show you everything you need to know. All right, let's get started. The first thing we want to do whenever we put a new computer down is give it a label, because we don't want to actually break this thing and lose all our work. So let's do caps lock. Labels set, and this computer is going to be called menu comp. Sure. Sounds good to me. And label set, let's name our floppy disk menu floppy. Oh, we didn't put a disk in there yet. Try that again. Okay, now let's edit our program. I'm just going to call it menu for simplicity's sake, but you can make this into an API. You could put it right into one of your other programs. Do whatever you want. Okay, we're in the interface. First thing I want to do is get some local variables. And this is how I'm going to be doing it now, is kind of making these nice little comments so you guys can see what is what. And remember that anything following a double dash is ignored. So this is just a comment line. And what variables do we need? Well, when we're printing a menu, we want it to look nice. One of the things we'll need to know is the terminal width and the terminal height. And I'm just going to store those right now at the beginning of the program, just so I can always reference them. I don't have to call getSize a bunch later on. The other thing I want to know is when we have a menu and we're scrolling through the different options, I want to know which one the user currently has selected. So in our default, we want to just select the first menu item. You could have different options in your menus, but for simplicity, let's just select the first item whenever a menu is initialized. The last one, I'm just going to have a boolean that determines if our menu is running, and that way I can exit it, because what we're going to do is display our menu. And they might pick an option, and then we're going to display our menu again, and they pick an option, back and forth. And one of our options in our menu is going to be to quit the program. And if we're in this everlasting loop of drawing the menu, doing an action, drawing the menu, doing an action, when we quit, we don't want to go back and draw the menu again. We want to stop drawing it. So all I have to do is, when we want to quit, set running in defaults, and then only draw the menu when running is true. So that's why we'll have that running variable there. Okay, the next thing we want to do is declare our actual menu, and this might be a little more complicated than some of you guys are used to with my tutorials, but let's get into this. We're going to use tables. Okay, so why I put menu definitions is we could actually have multiple menus here and define a bunch of them. I'm just going to do one for now, but realize that this section you could do a bunch. So let's call this the main menu. And it's going to equal a table. And all you do to make a table is just do two curly braces. And this can span multiple lines. And a normal table, you could just say, 1, 2, 3. And that would have 3 items in a Lua table. And you could get access to them by going, main menu, 1. That would give you the first item. It would print out 1, right? Okay, so we're going to actually take a little bit of advantage of something you can do, is you can say, I want the first item in my table, and that way. So we're basically just forcing the index. It will index it for you, in order, but maybe you didn't want 1, 2, and 3. Maybe you wanted A, B, and C, something like that. But we'll just do an integer value there. And then what we need for our menu is we don't just need one. We need a couple different values. We need the text to display. So the different choices that we want to display in our menu. And we also want to say what happens when the user chooses that item. And one way we can do that to provide multiple values is to put another table here. Okay. Oops, wrong brackets. Shift, there we go. Okay, so this is how I'm trying to build it up from ground up so you guys understand how these tables are working. So now we've got a table inside a table, tableception. Okay. And what do we want to put in this table? Well, remember how we don't have to say, 1 equals something. We can actually do whatever we want here. So we can give it a name, and let's call this the text. Okay, and this is the text we're going to display for this item. So let's call this choice 1. Okay, and let's do it for all 3. Choice 2. And the final one is going to be exit. Okay, so that would give us a menu with 3 options, each of them having a text parameter or a variable. Okay, but we don't only want the text, we want something else. So all you have to do is put a comma in there, and now we can have the other piece of data. And I'm going to call this the handler. You can think of a handler as something that handles an event. So when I choose a menu item, something's got to occur. Well, how do I know what occurs? The handler knows what to do. Okay, so all 3 of these are going to have a handler. Oops. And what is that handler going to be? Well, I'm just going to make it the name of a function that I want to call. So let's call a function called choice1. And equals exit. Okay, now if I come down here and I make a choice1, right? You guys should immediately see a problem with this. The problem here is that when I define main menu and create this and say handler is equal to choice1, the program doesn't know what choice1 is yet. So it will set the handler equal to null. And now later on, that even though I declare choice1 later, it doesn't matter. Handler still thinks that choice1 doesn't exist. So the first time you run your program, it'll say, sorry, your program's nil, and I don't know what to do. The second time you run your program, it's got choice1 defined in memory, and then it'll work. And so if you get quirky things like the first time your program doesn't work, the second time it seems to work, it's probably because you defined your functions in the wrong order. So take it away from here, and let's move it up. And I'm going to call these the menu methods. This is just a list of things that get called by the menu. So we have choice1, choice2, and exit. Okay, perfect. Now remember we said all we're going to do with exit is set running equal to false, so that's a really easy one. And choice 1 and 2 we could do really whatever we wanted to, but I'm just going to leave those blank for now. Okay, our menu is defined. Let me go over it real quick again. We have a main menu with 3 options. Each of those options has a text value that will be displayed, and a handler is what happens when the person chooses that option. Okay, now we need a few things to help us print this menu on the screen. So I'm going to call these the printing methods. I'm trying to keep these nice and organized so you guys know what does what. And the first one is to actually print the menu. And it's going to take it one of those menu objects. So I can say print menu, pass in main menu, and it'll know what to do. Now what do we want it to do? Well, we're going to loop over all the options. So we know how to do a loop from many of my tutorials before. We just say for the I equal to 1 is the starting option. And we could just say 3, but what if our menu has 4 options? What if it has 2 options? We can't do that. So the only easy way to do it is we could say the length, which is this the pound key, or the pound character of the menu. And because our menu has 3 options, that function or this operator will return 3. So this will loop 3 times for us. So now it doesn't matter if our menu has 5, 10, 100 options, it'll know how many times to loop. And we do a do and an end. Next thing we want to do is if the current item that we're printing is the selected item, remember selected item starts at 1, then we want to do something, or if it's not, then we'll do something else. And now we're going to handle our print functions. So we could do print, and we could print, how are we going to do it? Tell if it's selected. I'm going to just do these double alligators, or double less thans here, or greater than, sorry. And then concatenate the menu, and we need to say choose the selected, or choose the current one, which is I. So as this thing goes through, it'll do the first one, the second one, the third one. And how do we tell it to do the text? All you have to do is put a dot and then the name of the variable, which is text from up here. So that will print choice 1 when I is equal to 1. If I is equal to 2, it'll come here and get choice 2. And so that's all we have to do. So we're going to print that. And that's pretty much it. The other thing we want to do is if it's not the selected item, we still want to pad over 3 spaces so that it lines up. And we'll do the exact same thing. The text of the selected menu, or the current menu item. And that's it for our print menu. Okay. Looks good. Now, we want to have our handling methods. And remember what I told you what a handler was, is something that knows what to do when an event occurs. And if we put our choice 1, choice 2, and exit functions down here, we have that program where they're defined after the handler knows what they are. So we can't put those 3 down here, but we can put is what happens when a key is pressed. So I'm going to, get the mouse out of the way, on key pressed. What do we want to happen when someone presses a key? And we need to tell them which key was pressed and what current menu we're working with. Now we have to know how to convert keys to the actual key we want. So we want the up and down key, and we also want the enter key. And if you go to, let me get it up real quick. Okay, so if you go to the Minecraft wiki and type in key_codes, you'll get this layout, and it'll tell you every single key what it equals. So we can know that the enter key is 28, up and down are 202 or 8. Don't do this. Instead, use the keys API. So we say if the key that was pressed is equal to keys.enter. That means they pressed the enter key. We don't have to know that that's 28. Then do something. But we can also say if the key is equal to keys.up, and if the key is equal to keys.down. What do we want to do if they do the enter? Well, let's do another handler method here. And we're going to call this one on item selected. And all it's going to need is the current menu that we're working with. If I could type, it would probably work better. And so here we'll just say on item selected and pass it in the menu. What happens if they press key up? Well, all we need to do is take selected item, and do we need to increment it, or decrement it by 1? Well, if we're currently at the middle one, number 2, and they move up, it needs to go to the number 1, so we need to decrement it. And if they press down, we'll increment the value. Now, this is not always going to work. What if they're on the first menu item and they hit up? It's going to break the program because there's no item above that. So we need to make a check and say if selected item is greater than 1. So if it's 2 or 3, then we can go down. Oops, don't forget your then, like I always do. And another one here, say if selected item is less than the length of the menu. Remember, we already discussed the pound operator to get the length. Okay, that's all we need to there. That should allow our user to go up and down in the menu. Okay, so what do we want to do here? Is this going to be a lot of complicated code? Actually, it's going to be really simple. All we have to do is take the menu that was passed in, find it here, and we need to get which item they were on, and we know that's the selected item. And all we need to do is call the handler. Just the same way we called the text to get the text to display, we can call the handler. But because this is a function, we need to put brackets here, or braces. And that will execute choice 1, choice 2, or exit based on which one they had selected. That's all there is to it, guys, to do a handler function. It's really, I recommend doing it that way when you define your menus. Otherwise, you got to say, if selected item is 1, then do this. And and it's so much easier just having a table. Cool. All right, so we know how to print our menu. We know how to handle things that happen, events that happen. So now we actually need to call our main stuff. So let's call this the main method. Remember, this is just a comment. You guys don't have to do this in your program. I'll call mine main. And we're going to do a loop. And we could do a forever loop like we normally do, but there'd be no way to exit it from a menu. So we're going to use that running variable, which is true by default, and only run as long as it's true. As soon as they hit exit, it'll set the defaults and this loop will end, our program will end. While it is running, let's clear the terminal, set the cursor position up to the top. Always assume when you're drawing on the screen that this cursor position is in a random place. So it's just nice to always put it at the top if that's where you want it. And then let's print our menu. And this is the main menu. What do we need to do next? Well, now we need to do that os.pull event. Remember that from a previous tutorials? That gives us, allows us to know when redstone events happen, when timers go off, or when keys are pressed. And we could do it for all events, or we could just say, I only care about key events. That's when the user hits something on the keyboard. This returns 2 parameters, or return variables, an event and a key, the actual key that was pressed. And what do we want to do? Well, we need to do that onKey pressed handler. And we're going to pass in the key that they pressed and the menu that we're working with, which is main menu. And that's it. Other than we need to actually call it. Okay, cross your fingers. Hopefully it works the first time. And through the magic of editing, oops. The magic of editing, we have errors again. Let's see what we did wrong. Line 73, we need an end to close the if on 45. We did else, and oh, nope, we didn't do an end here. This was the one that we didn't end here. There we go. Sorry. Oop, you didn't see that. I changed our text, our definition of our menu. Let's go look at it. They're still calling the same handlers, but I changed the text that's displayed. It's no longer choice 1 or choice 2. I apologize, forgot to show you guys that. Okay, so now you're getting what to expect. First one's who am I, second one line controls, third one exit. We can move up and down, but once we're at the bottom, we can't move any further down. When we're at the top, we can't move up. If we hit enter, nothing happens because we haven't defined what happens for choice 1 and choice 2, but if we enter on the exit option, exits the program. Sweet. Go away, rain. Okay, now what do we want to happen when the menus are selected? Well, the first one's going to be easy. We're just going to do terminal.write hello My name is os.getComputerLabel. Why is it not working? Well, because remember, as soon as we executed the function, we went and displayed the menu again. So what do we need to do? We need, well, first thing I said is make sure you always assume that the terminal is in the wrong position. So let's clear it. Set the cursor position to 1 to 1. Write it, and then let's just do a sleep for 3 seconds and give that a try. Hello, my name is menu comp. After 3 seconds, back to the menu. Okay, what are we going to do for choice 2? And you notice I called that light controls. Well, I would like when they pick that option to give them another menu saying, do you want to turn the lights on or off? And I want to show you that our nice little menu definition supports having a second menu. So let's call it the lights menu. And we're going to do the exact same thing, but there's only going to be 2 options. The first one's going to have the text of lights on, and the handler is going to equal lights on. Put a comma there because we have the second one. Oops. Lights off. Handler equals lights off. No comma on that one because there's not another option. Okay. So what do we need to do if they select choice 2? Well, we're going to do the same thing we did to display the first menu. We'll clear the terminal. Set the cursor position, and then we're going to do print menu. And let's do the lights menu. That's what we call it, right? Yeah, lights menu. And then we're going to do event key equals os.wholeEvent. And call on key pressed, but we need to make sure we specify the lights menu this time because it has different actions. And that's the end of that one. So let's give it a try. Oops, actually we need to do one more thing. We need to actually say what these are. So let's say function lights on and function lights off. And all we need to do is do an rs.setOutput. Let's set it out the back to true. And false. Who am I? Does the hello, my name is menu comp. And the light controls gives us, oops, what happened there? Oh, we went right back on the action. So we need to do something different there. Okay, so we need to actually run this one. Let me think about it. Okay, so what we're going to do here is change this to say if they're in the main menu, that's going to start is equal to true, and in the lights menu, it's going to equal false. Now we need to go find everywhere where we called running, which was just in the exit, and change this into main menu. And where's our main here? There it is. Change this one as well. Okay. Now, when they pick choice 2, we're going to say in lights menu is now equal to true. And let's run a loop here. And that guy here. So that'll do a loop forever for the lights menu, but we need to know when we exit it, and we're going to exit it if they do the lights on or lights off. So in lights menu is equal to false, and the same thing on this one. Okay. Another thing I wanted to do is when they first do choice 2, I want to set the selected item back equal to 1, and that means if they were on 2, it won't stay at 2. Okay, I think this will work. Let's give it a try. We can do lights on, and now we'll see we're staying in this menu without going back to the other one. And if I do lights on, it's back to the first menu. Lights off, back to the first menu. Oop, we didn't reset the thing there. So let's fix that. On the main. Oh yeah, when we're exiting, let's just do that. Selected item equal to 1. And let's come out here and put some redstone. Purple and pink. Great colors. Lights on! Hooray! Lights are on. Lights off. We can still do Who Am I? And we can still do an exit. That guy, that's going to do it for this tutorial on how to do menus. This has been FunshineX. If you have any questions, post them in the comments. If they're detailed questions, please just don't say it doesn't work. I have no idea what that means, what you tried, what you're trying to do. So if it's like, I get an error when I call this line of code. Yeah, try, that's a great line. Put it in there, do a paste bin to your code or whatever. If it's a complicated one, like how do I write a 10-sided menu that does this and this and this and kills my whole factory, take it to the ComputerCraft forums. It's not a place for the YouTube comments. I just can't write you back that in a YouTube comment. But the ComputerCraft forums are an excellent place for that. In other news, ComputerCraft 1.4.2 it was just released, so now supports Minecraft 1.3.2. So you've got the printer peripheral. It works in multiplayer SMP, and a couple other things that were new in that. Go check the ComputerCraft homepage for the details of what was added by Dan200 and some of the other guys. And yes, that'll be it. So please subscribe to my channel. Go onto Twitch and follow me there as well for when I'm live streaming, and support my stream. And there's a chip and link, that kind of thing. So this has been FunshineX. I'll see you guys later. Bye.